Hi folks, hope you're well. It's Liam from Everyday Fitness. The video is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be based just on my experience, my weight loss over the past couple of years, and sort of how I did it, and the mistakes, more importantly, that I would sort of try to shy away from as much as possible. So I'm going to start off with just a little bit of context. My problem really sort of arose when I was given the freedom in secondary school to sort of pick and choose my own dinners and stuff like that. Effectively, it was always sort of free roam for me, and I thought, like, I originally thought the novelty would wear off, but it didn't for quite a long time, and that's how I sort of developed the issue. Now, I was never really a big kid growing up, like when I was young. I think that's because I was really quite active. I used to play football, tennis, cricket. I used to do a lot of extracurricular activities. But I think even when I began to eat so poorly and so naively, um, I was still partaking in sports and extra activities. But I think that really goes to show how much I was probably consuming. Um, I originally, I think I was a member at a local gym when I lived at home when I was around 14, 15. But it was it's a case where you just go to the gym and sit on your phone. It was sort of that. And I assumed that the weight would drop off me because I was merely going to the gym. And obviously, it doesn't work like that, unfortunately. Otherwise, we'd all be in unreal nick, wouldn't we? But that's sort of the background to it. And I was always sort of really self-conscious. Obviously, it's going to be it's a little bit personal, but obviously it's sort of something that I do want to share, and just my outlook on it. It was always a case of wearing clothes that were sort of a little bit bigger, a little bit looser fit, nothing too tight, just because even though I was quite outgoing, I was always quite sort of self-conscious about how I looked and sort of stuff like that. But that was sort of something that obviously drove me to kickstart my goal and sort of get going with it, essentially. Now, it's always, for as long as I can remember anyway, it had always been my goal to get in better shape or to just change my lifestyle, since obviously it took a turn for the worse. Now, for 4 or 5 years, I did literally nothing about it. Probably from the ages of like 15 to probably 19, 20. I half-assed it a few times, but never really did anything to change sort of anything, any aspect of sort of my own personal fitness. That has always been fat loss that I've been aiming for, or thus far. And it's a lot easier said than done. Like, obviously, it's easy for me as a fitness coach now to sort of preach how the fundamentals of fat loss are X, Y, and Z, but it's then applying them and getting yourself sort of ready to start that challenge. Now, the big thing that wasn't there for me, which is obviously something that I would advise, is the mindset side of it. Now, that's the most important thing, and it's really sort of the fundamental sort of structure to any sort of goal. You need to be in the right frame of mind. And whilst I knew, well, at least I thought I knew why I wanted my goal, I actually didn't. So, like, for example, I knew that I wanted to lose weight and wanted to drop weight, but at the time I wasn't accepting as to the reason why I wanted to lose that weight. So I wasn't accepting in my own mind that it's because you're not happy with yourself at the moment. And that's something that obviously took me a while to find, but once I found it, it was easier for me to then assess what I needed to do and why I needed to do it, more importantly. So that's kind of like the basics. Like I said, I was never a big child growing up. Like, I wasn't just a fat kid for 20 years, man. But like I said, it was just I just took my health for granted when I reached secondary school. Effectively, I just didn't give a shit, really. When really you should, especially at that age as well, because that's just when you're starting out, isn't it? But unfortunately, that's what happened, and now we're here. So the second part is sort of what I did about it and when this sort of happened. Now, um, I originally, like I said, I've half-assed this numerous times, countless times. I genuinely couldn't remember how many it is numerically, but I know that I'd never beaten it until this point anyway. Um, I'd never like got over that obstacle of going right, because I could go for like 2 or 3 days and be like, right, I'm really fucking doing this now, and then it just like die off, which I'm sure maybe some of you sort of experienced in the past. Now that is a combination of factors. We can't put our finger on which one it is, but for me it was most definitely discipline. I just couldn't fucking resist the biscuit tin, mate. Now that's hypothetical. It wasn't actually like biscuits and stuff for me, but my point is I just couldn't resist what I was craving at the time. Now, that's because of the reasoning behind my nutrition specifically. Now, it was just a case of I just shagged it when I was sort of accumulating what calories to sort of consume for a day in, day out purposes. Now, my training at the time was probably shite, but it led me to, like, these mistakes then led me to sort of think, right, why the fuck am I not able to do this, man? It can't be that hard. Now I must put a disclaimer in there. I didn't seek coaching or anything throughout this. And obviously I am a coach now, and I would advise seeking guidance at least if you are struggling. However, I did it without it, so I've got to say that. But then I remember one day, I was in my second year of uni, and I lived with a couple of lads who were really sound. And one of them in particular was effectively, he was doing what I was doing, but he was like a year ahead. So like he'd done a year of sort of in a caloric deficit, so trying to target some fat loss, and he did genuinely unbelievable. Like, honestly, shout out to Callum Curry if he's watching this, because he was a bit of my inspiration, I can't lie. He did really well, and I sort of like tried to almost mimic and copy, essentially, because there's no shame in copying. Like, if it's a good thing, then do it, man. But the problem for me was, again, the mindset wasn't there, my discipline was shit, and I didn't have the drive behind me that he had, for example. So again, in that year, it was kind of half-assed. I think I dropped 6 or 7 pounds. But then I put a couple on. There was a big fluctuation, so I don't really count that. Now, it really was in my final year of uni when it started. Now, I remember waking up one day, and as fucking depressing as this sounds, I literally remember sort of standing in the mirror, and I was like, what the fuck has happened to you? Like, I'd never really like fucking noticed it. I'd never like paid enough attention to it, because I genuinely, like, I'm sort of normally a person that doesn't really care about what people think of me. And maybe that's a drawback of my personality, but at the same time, I just didn't let anything really fucking bother me. But I think, again, that was me just fighting the sort of people maybe thinking something of me. So I was just trying to fight that self-conscious and mental battle that I was maybe having. Now, obviously, that's an issue in itself, but I remember specifically looking at myself and thinking, that's not fucking on, mate. That is genuinely not on, man. Like, you need to do something about that, and fast. Now, I had a girlfriend at the time, and she was really supportive and stuff, and that was great. And she didn't really care like what I looked like and stuff, just as long as I was me. All that shite, which is fucking honestly like so sound. But at the time, it made me think that, like, if this person thinks I'm good enough how I am, but I don't, there's still got to be an issue. Like, you can't just not be happy with yourself throughout your life just because, and just allow somebody else to, effectively. So I decided, I'd already been a member of a gym for 2 previous years as a student. This was my final year, and as much of a waste of money as that was, I finally started to put it to some good use. Now, I remember I lived around the corner from one of the gyms, and I used to go really quite often. Now, we're going to get into sort of what I did nutrition-wise, training-wise, and how I lost the weight I did. But I just want to say, that before I mention this, the big disclaimer is I don't condone or nor advise any of what I did. I'm merely just stating what I did at the time. Obviously, my opinions now versus my opinions back then of what I did and how I did it would be fucking vastly different. So this is obviously just sort of putting the story out there effectively, and we'll go through sort of what I would do differently and the mistakes that I maybe made and things that I would maybe change later on in the video. So training wise, we'll go through that first because I feel like that is obviously key importance. You have to train. I used to train 12 sessions per week. Now you might be sat there thinking there's only fucking 7 days, mate, what you on about? But what I used to do was I used to have one rest day. That would change. Like I wouldn't like have a certain fucking day like a Sunday. Like Sunday is now my rest day, but I wouldn't have like a set day in each week that I'd rest. And on the other 6 days, I would train twice a day. In the morning, I would train like resistance based. So I follow the push pull leg split. So I'd do like push pull legs, rest, and repeat that. And then in the mornings I'd do my resistance training, and in the evenings I'd go back and do my cardio. Now my cardio would consist of 30 to 45 minutes. It's basically dependent on whether I could be asked to do 45 minutes or if I was a bit too tired I'd just do 30, but it'd always be 30 as a minimum and no more than 45. Now at the same time I must say I also played football quite a lot. I played squash quite frequently as well, so I was really fucking active at this time. And obviously my start weight at a whopping 245 pounds is obviously quite a bit of weight to shift about, given that I didn't have much muscle, lean muscle tissue at the time, so that's to be taken into account as well. Now, whilst I want to just quickly say something about my weight before we get into nutrition, my starting weight was 245 pounds. However, I'm not sure if that was my heaviest or not. I'm fairly sure I'm around that, but I genuinely could have been a bit heavier at a time. But at the time of taking my starting weight at this sort of period, I was 245 pounds, which is roughly around 17.5 stone, which I know you're listening thinking that's fucking mad, but I know, mate, try being that, it's fucking horrible. But nutrition wise, this is where I fucking shagged it, basically, I think. If that's most definitely, if it wasn't the 12 training sessions a week. Nutrition wise, I started on 1600 calories and I effectively never changed it. There was a couple of times where I would just drop carbs on non-training days sometimes, or even on training days. Like I didn't realise the importance or understand sort of the whole drop calories potentially on non-training days because you don't need as many because your expenditure's not as high and shit like that. I didn't really fucking pay attention to it because I didn't really know anything about it. So I'd just choose like random days and I'd drop calories specifically through carbohydrates. So I'd drop to maybe 1,300, 1,400 on some days. But my calorie breakdown was around 140 protein, 140 carbs, and around 42, 43 grams of fat. That was around my calories. Now, I wouldn't obviously advise that, but I'm not going to get into why I wouldn't advise that right now. But that was the calorie targets that I followed. Now, before I go a little bit deeper into training nutrition, I want to quickly say that at the start of the video, I did explain that I didn't undergo any coaching. Honestly, on my life, I genuinely didn't even think about it. I didn't think it'd help me. I didn't think it was even an option. I just thought, because I've seen other people do it themselves and whatnot, that I can do it myself. Now that's fine, because eventually I think I'm nearly there, or I nearly got there, or I did all right. I'm not fucking here to boost my own ego. I'm just saying what I did paid off in the end, but by no means was it efficient at all, and by no means would I ever fucking do it again, mate. I'd do everything different. But I just want to put it out there. But what I did instead, to replace the coaching side of it and to sort of maybe work on my self-learning with fitness and everything fitness-based, was I used to do a lot of fucking reading, mate. Like, a lot of reading. I used to watch a lot of videos on YouTube. Not like the shitty fucking 15-minute workout videos. I mean, the reasoning behind exercise choice and shit like that. But again, even though I was effectively trying to better my understanding, this was having detrimental effects because not everything you see, and you'll know this, not everything you see online is fucking correct. Now, big understatement, mate, most of it's fucking bullshit, isn't it? So we need to be careful of what we're sort of looking at and perceiving to be factually correct. At the time, I was too naive to even think differently because I knew literally nothing. Anything that I did see, I was like, fuck yeah, that makes sense. So I'd just be like, all right, we'll do that. Now, I'd spend maybe 1 to 2 hours a day on learning. So it was quite a lot on my day. I was just doing a bit of like work here and there, like given that I was still at uni as well and still studying, getting gym time in the morning, going back in the evenings to do cardio, and then doing some learning as well. Like it was quite a lot. So my plate was quite busy. But in essence, that's sort of what led me to then sort of decide on what training split firstly that I'd go for. That was the first thing that I even planned. Like I was like, right, even though I could effectively do anything and start moving and my expenditure would go up, I need to sort of assess what's best for me. Now, how I did this wasn't ideal. I just sort of like picked exercises from different people's workouts online and shit and just put them together in like a table and followed that. Now it obviously adds a little bit of sort of like routine and planning, but it wasn't the best. I'll admit that's fine. But it's what I did. Now in terms of like sleep and stress and shit like that, I literally paid no attention to it. I didn't really fucking understand it, so I didn't value it at the time because again, I was really naive to it all, which isn't ideal, but again, I've got to be truthful. When it comes to nutrition as well, I had a question on my Instagram last night about cravings and shit and how to avoid effectively and remaining your calorie targets. Now, whilst I was dieting, I think my choices were actually really quite good. Like I'd have a typical day's nutrition, obviously thereabouts was I'd have scrambled like eggs or like an omelette in the morning. So essentially just egg whites and a couple of yolks in the morning. Then I'd have like a tuna and low-fat cheese toasty at dinner time. And then an evening meal would contain just like chicken, rice and veg. But I know it sounds really fucking boring, but I'd make it taste nice. So I'd add like low-calorie sauces and shit. It was actually quite nice. And then throughout the day, I'd snack on like, I think I'd have a banana, low-calorie jelly, and I'd have 1 cereal bar. That was sort of like the diet, and that was around 1,600 calories. And that was actually relatively manageable. Now, recently, like to the present, I've been using intermittent fasting as sort of like a tool for like finishing my fat loss stage, just because as I've got leaner, like fat loss becomes a little more difficult just because fat cells become more stubborn. So I've had to work on it a bit more, and my hunger's got kind of like taken sort of precedent, and during the evenings my appetite flies through the roof now for some reason. It never used to be like that, but it has now, so I've had to push meals back. But when I was in this sort of year of fat loss, I never even thought about pushing meals back to make it easier, because I actually never struggled that much, which is one thing that I will take as a positive from it all. Like I think I managed to sort of nail the food choices as best as I could anyway at the time, given sort of like the information that I actually knew about nutrition and stuff, which is good. But yeah, that was sort of that. But there is some days where you are going to struggle. And these days were, when they did occur, they were prominent. Like it started to shag me later on in the time period. But what I do to sort of evade any sort of cravings, or as best as I could, or what I thought, is I would have a cheat day, not a cheat meal, not a refeed. I'd have a cheat day. So for a day, I would eat whatever the fuck I wanted, effectively. Within reason, I think I'd probably go up to maybe 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day, which again, it's quite a lot. Like, but you could do a lot more damage in a day. Like, so I'd give myself one of them every 10 days, and this sort of just it did two things for me that sort of really paid its dues for me. One, it kept me in line with my goal. So, for example, I'd come to like day 7, I'd be like, fuck me, I'm really craving X, Y, and Z. Like, I really want this. But then I could just remind myself that in 3 days' time, I've got a cheat day. That's fine. So just keep going, and that would give me the motivation. Now, the second thing that I did is the second thing that it sort of like worked well for was that when I came to this day, I would have everything that in them previous 9 days that I'd been wanting. I'd just have them things. So like there's some days that I was like, fuck me, I could scram some granola. So I just have granola. Now granola's actually, it's not, you wouldn't go to granola, would you, on a cheat day necessarily? But I just sort of had everything that I was craving. I wouldn't just, like, if I wasn't craving a pizza, I wouldn't have one because it wouldn't actually satisfy my cravings. So I was smart with it, and that paid out really well for me, I think. But that's sort of where we came. And timeframes wise, I want to sort of briefly touch on the numericals and how much weight we lost and shit like that. So in the first like 3 to 4 months, I lost about 30 pounds. It was about 32 pounds, which is actually really quite fucking good. And I felt at the time when I was like noticing this, I was like, fuck me, I'm smashing it. But I failed to realise, whilst that is like really good, I failed to realise that because I was obviously larger, I had effectively a higher body fat percentage. There was more of me, mate. There was more I could lose in a faster period of time. So essentially the first couple of weeks, I think I dropped like 9 pounds in like 2 weeks. Which obviously there's a combination of factors. It's not just fucking body fat, is it, mate? All that water weight will have gone. But this was still like a positive for me. But I kind of again became a little bit naive, and I began to think that I was smashing it. So at the time I was thinking, yeah, man, I've got this, like, easy. And I remember having a really fucking difficult week, specifically, and I think it was just before the time of my birthday, I'm pretty sure. I can't remember specifically. It was summer, and it was really difficult because I'd weigh myself every day, and I'd noticed a plateau for like, it was like 3 days. I was thinking, that is weird, because in the previous time period, I'd never experienced that. And I came to realise that it was probably not as big of an issue as I was making out to be, but it was still something that I was like, fuck, I'm not smashing it. So then the next like period of time, I just made sure that everything was on point, and I sort of stuck to the plan. This was what I'd seen online. It was not to worry, not to panic, which is effectively what I'd say now. But I sort of stuck to that. I was like, right, okay, this is what it says. And given the time, my weight started to decrease again, which was fine. So again, it's just a plateau. It was natural. But then the next sort of time period was the next 8 to 9 months where I lost the rest of the weight. Now, in this period, I lost around 45 pounds, 45 to 50. And in this time period, this was by far the most difficult period of my whole entire life now. Not just physically, but mentally, man. Like, it was fucking horrible. Like, even though I was noticing, like, changes in sort of my composition and obviously the numbers on the scale and my measurements, I just felt like shit, man. I felt like I wasn't a person. I felt like I didn't want to go outside and shit. Like, it was fucking horrible. But at the same time, like, it was something that I needed to do. So I just sort of like overrode it, and I was just like, just get it done. Just get your shit done. And obviously surpassed it eventually, but it's something like the mental game is genuinely fucking, it just changes. I experienced that, and I don't know if I can describe it to somebody that's not been there, but for me, what I noticed was in the first few months, like, I felt like I was smashing it, and then even though I was still continuing like in like a positive way, so like my weight was going down, I was looking at myself in the mirror, I was like, nah, man, I'm still not happy. And that was like really getting to me. But like, you can't force it. And that's what I think I tried to do too much, and that's something that I would advise not to do. You need to be patient with it. Like, there's a reason I got like how I did, and it was essentially my own fault. Now, it's not everybody's fault how they get into sort of bad positions and stuff, but most of the time it comes down to eating habits, and mine was shit. So it was just a case of changing them and adjusting, and the adjustment phase is just a lot longer than you initially think, and my patience just wore fucking thin for the next fucking 8 months. But like I said, we fucking got there, mate. We made it. Well, we didn't make it because I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but that's the beauty of fitness. You'll never actually make it, mate. There's not an end goal. You might think there is, but you'll get there and there'll be another one. So look forward to that. So yeah, in total, I think it's around 78 pounds dropped, because I went from 245 roughly to around 167 ish. So what I would obviously I'm going to put 80 pounds in thumbnail for the views, mate, so don't hate me. But what I want to quickly now is just touch on a couple of mistakes that I made. Now, first mistake is training. Don't train 12 sessions a week. I'm just going to take my jumper off. Don't be training 12 days a week, because it's absolutely going to be detrimental to not only your sort of physical health, because you're just going to be shagged, like your recovery is just going to be genuinely atrocious, but also your mental health. Now, I never once thought that I would ever be affected mentally by anything. I've just never been that sort of guy, but them 12 months were genuinely some of the roughest that I've ever had, and that's just because of the strain and the stress that I put on my own body. Now, I would not advise that. I don't think I did it in a timely manner at all. I'm not saying I did it too fast. That's not what I'm trying to say. I think I did it too impatient. I didn't want to wait for the results to come naturally, and I was just sort of like trying to fucking keep going with it, and that is not the right attitude to have. Whilst it's really important to be positive, it's also going to pay well to be sort of like a realist, and I was just being far too sort of I'd say optimistic, but I was just trying. It was just chasing the dream, and I thought that if I lost £2 in a week, that in the next week should be losing 3-4, and it should be going up. Now, I just didn't pay enough attention to the fundamentals either. Being sleep, stress, sort of like my own mindset and sort of stuff like that. Like, I was just literally going, right, have I got my training sessions in today? Yep, tick. Have I met my nutritional targets? Yep, tick. Right, that's sound then. I'll do what I want now. And I'd have late nights still, not give a shit, wake up really early. I think there's some days where I'd have like 4 hours sleep and I'd go and train. There's studies out there for you to go and read about showing you how that is just genuinely detrimental and not advised. But it's something that, again, I didn't pay attention to, but future me would look back at me and go, Liam, you're a twat. Don't do that again, man. The second biggest thing is the calorie targets that I was on. Now, 1,600 calories is far too low, I will say, to start on. Now, some people can be on 1,600 calories and finish on that, but again, everyone's different. But what I would say is, for me, starting on 1,600 calories was ridiculous, because I was going from eating like genuinely like probably 3,000 to 3,500 calories, I'll say, per day on average. Like, I don't actually know that, but I'm gonna take a fucking stab at it. Like, so I've essentially half my caloric intake whilst going to the gym effectively 12 times during a 7-day period or a 6-day period. Still playing football, still doing extracurricular activities, still studying as well. Like, this just, honestly, it fried me. And I can't say with enough emphasis to not do that, man, and not make that mistake. Just start on a calorie target that is sustainable to start with. Now, obviously, I sustained it for a period of time until I got to where I wanted to be. But like the fucking strain it puts on you is genuinely horrid. I would not advise it. So start basically, if your sort of goal is fat loss as well and you're watching this, just take your maintenance calories, find that, and just drop by a couple hundred at the start and just see what your body does. Monitor all the other factors, so your sleep and your stress. Ensure you know why you're doing it in the first place, not just because you want to lose weight. Why do you want to lose weight? Who are you doing it for? What's the underlying reason? Once you've found that, okay, then you're ready to go. Jump on a training plan that is sustainable as well and not an absolute piss take, which is the one that I was on essentially. Now, all of this might sound good and you're thinking, yeah, that sounds accurate, but I don't know how to do it. All I would say is seek a little bit of guidance. So go follow my Instagram page, which is there, mate. For some more information, I am more than happy just to give you an hand, mate, because it is genuinely one of the hardest things I've ever done. And now that I'm a fitness coach and helping others, it's genuinely my fucking life, mate, and I love it. So if you do need any help or you've got any more questions regarding anything that I've been through, obviously I could go a lot deeper, but this video would be days long, mate. This is sort of just an overview of sort of how I did it, essentially. But if you have got any more questions, either drop them below or go over to my fitness page and get some more tips and advice. But yeah, I think that's about it. I hope you enjoyed it. If you are new, then I would love it if you subscribed. That would be great. Oh, look, there's the button. And just give it a like, mate, and let us know what you think. I've been Liam from Everyday Fitness. It's been great talking to you. See you later.